Hello, my darlings. I'm Seren Briar, and welcome to BiteNotes, the recap show for the Vampire the Masquerade Chronicle ATL by night. Tonight, we look back at Season 2, Chapters 5 and 6. Now, let's sit back, relax, and recap a vampire story. Chapter 5, Rude Awakening. Melisande comes back inside, still processing her nomination. Anton lets Eren out of the sub-basement, and Eren apologizes for his outburst with the blood. Thomasina is delighted to hear that Mel is a candidate for Prince, but Mel is reticent. She doesn't want to be Prince, but fears what will happen to her should she lose. It's approaching 4 a.m, so even though there's still a lot of questions about the police and the synthetic blood, everyone goes home and to bed, only to be awoken rather strangely. Eren, Anton, and Thomasina are in tight, dark, sealed metal boxes. Eren and Thomasina are being transported somewhere, but Eren's box is still. Their bodies are slow and unresponsive. Melisande wakes up in her bed, also sluggish, her phone absolutely blowing up with text messages. She sees a sliver of daylight from behind one of her curtains. All 27 of the texts are from Elijah, telling her to go to Grace Manor as soon as the sun goes down. Unable to move, Mel lays in bed, waiting for sunset. Anton and Thomasina hear gunfire break out around them. Their boxes shift violently, followed by a crash, then heat, then cold, suffocating darkness. Their containers begin to scrape across concrete, and they scream but get no answer. Eren, meanwhile, sits in calm silence. Deciding he is in no immediate danger, he goes back to sleep. Anton and Thomasina's boxes are forced open, and they find themselves in the sewers with Elijah, Grace, and 2 other Thin Bloods. Elijah has rescued them from the Second Inquisition. Eren has already been captured and taken to the SI's facility in Conyers. The Second Inquisition is working with the police department, and the cops that showed up at the Athenaeum knew what they were. Whatever lives Thomasina, Anton, and Eren had before are now gone. When the sun sets, Eren wakes up again, still in a box. He uses Eyes of the Beast to see in the darkness around him, but something about the ability is different now. Eren's box is moved, and he emerges from it into a small, round room with a heavy steel door and uncomfortably bright fluorescent lights. As he looks around, he sees the transparent figure of a young woman, hanging, looking directly at him. Melisande arrives at Grace Manor and meets with Elijah, who tiredly informs her of the fate of the rest of her coterie. The Second Inquisition don't yet know of her involvement, but for her own safety, she will need to go underground as well. Elijah is confused and suspicious that Eren, Anton, and Thomasina were captured instead of outright killed. Whatever is in the facility, it's almost certainly worse than death. Mel finds Thomasina and Anton in one of the parlors. Thomasina is seething with rage, and Anton keeps repeating a list of supplies to himself over and over. Neither of them are in good shape, but at least they're here.
That. I have nothing. I've never been in that position before, believe you me.
Well, I think you have plenty. You are still your undead self. You are still here and whole, and you still have your coterie, presumably all 4, still intact. And I have also lost everything. Anton has lost everything, and presumably so is Eren. So right now, the best thing we can do is be there for each other.
Anton's barely here, let alone here with us. You? What have you lost? You seem fine.
Your anger is misplaced, Thomasina. I'm here to help in whatever way I can. My number one priority right now is that we can get together and get Eren. Whatever that has to look like, it's what we need to do.
Why do we have to leave in order to get... Just bring him here. Where else are we gonna go?
He is being held at the Second Inquisition Center. And I don't think that they're just gonna mosey on over here and drop him off at the doorstep. You two... I don't even know. I didn't ask. But you're here. Somehow Elijah helped. And Eren is not.
In the facility, Eren is confused, aggravated, and bored. He bangs on the steel door and finds out the hard way that it's electrocuted. He tries to talk to the ghost in his room, but conversation is difficult for her. And whatever happened to her in life, she's still scared of it in death.
I'm gonna start getting up around the room. I still have my feral weapons out on one hand. And just gonna start tracing around the circle of the room. Just going along the grooves and seeing if I...
There are no grooves. The wall is perfectly smooth.
Okay. I'm gonna start writing on the wall.
Okay. Are you getting near the ghost?
Yep. So I'll stand up, pass through them to kind of get to the other side of the room. Not through them. Around them.
Okay.
Different outcome depending on what you do.
Okay.
Okay. And with that, I'm going to just make a giant smiley face on the wall, and actually take a little bit of blood and just start filling it in a little bit, and see if
A
anybody...
sound comes banging on the door as you're doing this.
Sorry, there weren't any rules or notices. I just made myself at home.
No response.
Okay. I look back towards the ghost.
She looks terrified.
Okay.
She has looked terrified since the banging.
I need to get out of here.
A voice finally comes from her, very choked and strained. And she just says, "You can't."
Hexadecimal arrives at Grace Manor to take the other three shepherds to their new safe house, a stunning but decrepit mansion that has been abandoned for nearly 20 years. Across the top of the unusable mailbox, Anton sees the name Rossellini. Hex takes them on a quick tour of the mansion. In the kitchen, they find a collection of very expensive wine and 2 cabinets of custom china. One set is embossed with a gold cursive R, and the other a heavily detailed G. Anton uses Spirit's touch to determine that the owner of the home is a now deceased human named Antonio Rossellini. In the foyer, they find the extremely bloody remnants of a crime scene. Anton touches the blood and discovers it belongs to Antonio Rossellini, his son Giorgio Rossellini, and his wife Elena Giovanni. Everyone is surprised and disgusted to discover that their new home has ties to the Giovanni family. The Giovanni have quite an unsavory reputation among kindred. Upstairs, in the master bedroom, they find a dusty oil painting of Antonio, Giorgio, and Elena. Melisande wipes it off revealing the faces, and she and Anton stare in surprise. The woman, Elena Giovanni, is Mooney. Chapter 6. A Few Words For. A doctor enters Aaron's cell with a tray of hypodermic needles. In the man's presence, Aaron is overcome with a heavy feeling of stifling weakness. He falls to his knees, unable to move. The doctor injects the contents of 5 syringes into Aaron's neck. His touch nearly burns, and Aaron catches a glimpse of a silver crucifix around the man's neck. When he's done, orderlies collect the metal transport container, and Aaron is left alone with the ghost. He tries to talk to her again, to ask what she wants. She just wants to sleep. In the mansion, Thomasina, Anton, and Melisande stare at the portrait of Mooney and her family. They decide that, given Mooney's apparently complicated history with Kindred Society, they should keep her identity to themselves, at least for now. Continuing their tour, they find a gorgeous 2-story library. Thomasina and Anton figure out how to open a bookcase, revealing a hidden stone staircase leading deep underground. Hex refuses to accompany them to the creepy basement, but the shepherds press on. The long staircase lets them out into an antechamber, flanked by 2 stone statues of the Virgin Mary. The religious iconography makes Melisande uneasy, but she's able to push through it, and they come upon a long room with 15 statues of what also appear to be Mary. However, these don't have the same effect on Mel. Something's off about them. Past the not Marys, they find 10 rooms of catacombs. All the shelves, except for 2, contain a preserved body. Anton decides to lay down in one of the empty shelves and finds a button above his face. He presses it, and the shelf beneath his feet drops down. He falls fast. Thomasina and Melisande reluctantly follow suit. They find themselves facing 2 curving hallways with a cage elevator in front of them. Assuming the elevator will bring them back up to the home, they get in and press the button. Instead, it leads them further underground, into a cavern with 14 stone platforms, each containing a filigreed mahogany coffin. At the end of the cavern is an intricately carved black marble throne. Above the throne, laid into the stone wall, is a golden symbol of Clan Giovanni. Anton opens every coffin. Each one contains a pile of ash. Thomasina finds a lever on the side of the throne. When she pulls it, the coffin shifts to the side to reveal a heavy iron door. Behind it is another set of stairs, this time leading up. This staircase is even longer, but eventually they come to a metal hatch leading into a large barn. In the barn are 4 horses, all extremely malnourished, but somehow alive. Their eyes are clouded and white. Nameplates on the horses' stalls list their names as War, Famine, Pestilence, and Death. Anton uses his ring to draw blood from Death and tastes it, but is unable to discern anything. It doesn't even read as animal. The horses each claim a shepherd, draping their heads over their shoulders as though they were meant for each other. War claims Thomasina, Death, Mel, and Pestilence takes Anton. Light is beginning to creep over the horizon, and the coterie extricates themselves from their horses and hurries inside. In the foyer, a letter waits for them on a table. It's from Cyrus, informing the rest of the shepherds that he has infiltrated the Second Inquisition facility and located Aaron. He directs them to enter through the ventilation ducts on the roof, and warns them of a La Sombra within the facility named Alejandro Celino Foto, who is embracing mortals for the SI to experiment on. Attached to the letter is a map of the facility and GPS coordinates to its location. The next night, the shepherds ready themselves to retrieve and rescue Eren. With no time to waste, they drive to the facility in an Escalade that was left on the property. Meanwhile, Eren wakes up in his overly bright cell. He feels a little off, and his veins have turned a deep purple. The same doctor enters with a couple orderlies, who drag Eren through the hallways to an operating theater. Eren is strapped to the table. He pleads with the doctor not to do this, but the doctor doesn't listen. He injects 3 syringes full of a dark liquid into Eren's neck and delivers 3 shocks to him with a defibrillator. Each time, darkness that Eren can somehow see through overtakes the theater before falling away. Eren's reflection in the glass overhead becomes hazy and indistinct. The doctor injects 1 final syringe, and Eren falls asleep. On the country road leading up to the facility, Anton is still fretting over his lack of supplies, convinced that without his magic, he isn't enough. Melisande pulls the car over and gives him a pep talk. Even if Anton doesn't have confidence in himself, she and Thomasina believe in him.
Anton, we may never get your stuff back. You may never have your stuff again. But you have your intelligence, you have your abilities, you have your experience, and for now, that's all we can rely on. And it's tough. I was so very attached to my lifestyle, and I know that Thomasina was as well. We did not obviously have the great benefit of the powers that you had from your stuff, but you have other powers that neither her nor I could ever have with anything we could ever pick up. Just within you without having anything. I know certainly tonight and last night you were the mastermind of our hijinks, and we got out alive. I fully believe in your abilities, whether you have your stuff or not, and I think you should too.
A little further down the road, they find a crate left for them by Cirrus, containing guns and knives. The Second Inquisition facility is surrounded by woods. Signs on the front identify it publicly as a police training center and an army recruitment center. There are soldiers outside, each wearing heavy military clothing with large guns slung across their backs. The coterie manages to skirt the cameras and make it onto the roof, where they enter the air vents. Traveling the ducts, they find an armory filled with high-tech and unfamiliar guns and body armor, and a laboratory where autopsies are being performed on people who look a lot like La Sombra. Anton, Thomasina, and Melisande make their way toward the operating theaters when oppressive darkness overtakes them. When it falls away, Anton looks through the vent to see Eren, strapped to the table and sleeping, and the doctor beginning to clean his equipment. Thank you for tuning in to BiteNotes. Remember, liking, commenting, and subscribing does not violate the Masquerade. You can view full episodes of ATL by Night on our YouTube channel. We stream Tuesdays at twitch.tv/ATL by Night. Remember to support us on Patreon and follow us on Twitter. Until next time, good night.